We're going? And I just look at you. Okay, are you ready for this? I'm Jenna McDaniel, and I just released a song called Carry the Weight. So I thought I'd talk a little bit about what that song is about, what it means to me. And I always try to be really honest in my songwriting, and I always write about things that actually happened to me, feelings I felt, and it really helps me get through those feelings. And this song was absolutely no different. So in October of 2019, I was raped by a close friend of mine at the time. And it happened in my own apartment, in my own bed, in what was supposed to be my safe space, which it no longer was my safe space after that. It took a couple of weeks to fully accept what happened and understand that that's what it was. It really wasn't until I was explaining the event to a friend, and she kind of made me open my eyes and realize that that wasn't okay. And what happened to me was, in fact, sexual assault. And for a very, very long time, I thought it was my fault. I thought I did something. I replayed the events of that night over and over in my head every single day, trying to figure out, pinpoint where I gave the impression that I was okay with that. I obviously started going to therapy immediately after. I was doing a therapy called EMDR. It was difficult. I basically went to therapy every single week for a year straight. That was really difficult because basically every single week I had to relive that experience for an entire hour. Yes, in the end it was helpful, and I was able to figure out why I thought it was my fault and what happened to me and what I was feeling. And I really got into a very deep depression. I've always struggled with, I think anxiety and OCD and whatever, and I think some form of depression, but this was like nothing I'd ever experienced before. And I just kept finding new ways to punish myself, because again, for some reason I thought I caused this. I invited this friend into my life, I invited her into my home, but I had done that many times. I was friends with this person for a year, or if not more, and I had no reason not to trust her. I had no reason to think that she would do this to me. So I kept having to tell myself that, and everyone around me was telling me that, you didn't cause this, But since it happened in my house, in my bed, I couldn't sleep for months. I constantly woke up thinking she was right behind me. I obviously had dreams, nightmares about it almost every night. I even left town and went to go stay with my parents because I just couldn't be in my space. Again, what was supposed to be my safe space. And it just didn't feel safe anymore. And I thought every time I came home, she would be waiting there for me at the door, I don't know, to try to apologize or whatever. I started staying out as much as I could. I was drinking quite a lot. I started overeating because that was the only thing that I could find comfort in. I was trying to make anything make me feel okay, and obviously nothing did. So then I just stopped eating, and I lost 10 pounds within a week or two. So much so that people were noticing. And I realized, obviously way after the fact, that all of these unhealthy behaviors, I would do one and then realize it was unhealthy, and then the form of punishing myself would kind of morph into something else. And I would realize that was unhealthy and just keep changing what I was doing. And so it, obviously started with overeating, then undereating, then it turned into binging and purging. And I would be talking to a friend, eating, and I would say, I'm fine. I'm getting my weight back, it's under control. And as soon as I would stop eating, I would stand up, and I was on autopilot, and I didn't come to until I was on my knees on the floor in a public restroom. And I was like, what am I doing? Like, how did I get here? And so again, I would realize that was unhealthy and I'd move on to something else. And, that turned into self-harm, that turned into very reckless driving. And all of that kind of came to a head on my 24th birthday, which was June of 2020. And my friends threw me a wonderful gathering. They got me a cake. It was wonderful. I felt so loved. I felt cared for. It was my people. Like, I was happy. I should have been happy, and I was in the moment, but then as soon as I got in my car to go home, it dropped, and the happiness was gone, and I was back to being depressed and not knowing what to do to fix this and what to do to make all of these feelings stop. And so, as I'm driving home, I am kind of on this windy road, and there's trees lining the road, and I keep picking one out. And I'm like, okay, this one will do it. We're gonna run into that tree, and that's gonna fix all of our problems. And then I would just keep driving because I was nervous to do it. Then I was like, okay, I'm done. This is too hard. Like, I can't fight this anymore. I'm doing all the right things. I'm going to therapy every week. I'm talking about it. I'm trying to understand what's going on in my head. I'm writing about it. I'm everything I could think of, but nothing was working. And so I grabbed the wheel and like white knuckled as I started to turn, my phone rang. And it was my friend who lives across the world in another country in a different time zone, just calling to say happy birthday. It was a different day in her country. And that phone call saved my life. After I, was very happy on the phone and kind of put that mask up, I hung up and I realized, what were you about to do? That was crazy. And so immediately I left town, because clearly I wasn't in a healthy environment being alone in my home. And also it was 2020, so everyone was locked in their home, and it was too much. So I stayed with my parents for a couple of weeks. And I thought I was good. I was like, I'm fine. Like, I'm with my parents, I'm with the dogs, I'm like back in my hometown. But then again, another night I was driving home and I was on just like a 2-lane highway. There was no one around. It was like 10 or 11 at night, and just stopped my car in the middle of the road. And I turned off my headlights and just sat there. And it was another one of those autopilot moments where I didn't realize I was doing it until I snapped out of it and looked up. And I was like, what the hell are you doing? And so then I just start bawling, and I somehow made it back to my parents' house, and I physically could not move. I tried to get out of the car. I tried to honestly lift my legs and move myself to get out of the car, but I couldn't move. So I just laid on the horn for my parents to come out, and that's when I decided I had to make a change. I had to do something to get out of this. And I did, got on medication. I'm much better now. But I don't want to give all the credit to that. My lovely therapist, who I adore, had me write a letter to the woman that raped me. I don't know why it took me so long to do that. I don't know why I didn't think of that. I'm a writer. I should have thought, hey, write a letter, this will help. But all I was trying to do was write songs about it, because that's what I do. And so I wrote this letter and put everything out there, like what I felt, what happened that night, what it did to me, and how I know this wasn't going to be the end. And I'm so thankful that wasn't the end. But after writing that letter, I felt 20 pounds lighter. I obviously cried a lot after I wrote it, because I was feeling so many things, like mad I hadn't done it 6 months prior, but so happy that I finally felt like the door had closed. This is something I'm obviously always going to carry with me. This is the worst thing that's happened to me. Of course, I'm going to carry it with me. But I'm just thankful that all of the people around me were there for me. I leaned on my friends a lot and my parents a lot. But again, there was things I didn't tell them. There was stuff I kept a secret because I just didn't want to be viewed as the weak one. I didn't want to be viewed as the friend that had, all of the mental health issues and all of that. But I realized that's okay. That's a part of me, and it is something I struggle with. It's something a lot of people struggle with. And once I started being honest about what I was going through, it made it a lot easier because it wasn't like I was keeping a secret in my back pocket every time I was around people. Since I've begun speaking about this, I have had some people reach out to me, telling me their story and telling me that they're grateful that I'm talking about this because sadly, I know a lot of people that have gone through this, and a lot of people that maybe this happened to them and they didn't quite understand that that's what it was. Kind of like me, it was a close friend, it was a woman, it was someone I cared about and loved, and I just didn't think that that could happen. So part of me being ready to share my story was me finishing this song, Carry the Weight. Again, it took me about 6 months to write. I wrote it by myself, and I haven't released anything I've written by myself before, so it's a little scary. It's very vulnerable. Again, I've always been honest in my songwriting, but this feels like I'm just, here is everything. Part of the song talks about how I had to rebuild my house, which I did. And I genuinely did throw out my sheets, like it says in the song. I gave away my, whatever I was wearing that night, because everything reminded me of this person and everything reminded me of what happened. So I got rid of some of my favorite things just to try to heal. And I don't know, I hope people that have gone through this can hear this song and know that it does get better. Writing the song was a huge weight off of my shoulders, and I finally was able to put it into words. Everything I was feeling, everything I went through, it felt like I got my power back. Wasn't scared of my own home anymore. I felt safe again, and that to me outweighed the fear of not being believed, because I know what happened to me, and I know what it did to me, and I know what I felt. And so I'm just hoping that by me sharing my story and sharing this song, that I can help someone else. Hearing other people's stories and what helped them, that really helped me. So I'm hoping, someone hears my story and maybe they feel confident enough to share their story or even just confront what happened to them, because I think that's probably the hardest part, is accepting it and dealing with it. And I know sharing your story does not make the weight go away, but hopefully it makes it a little bit lighter because we can all carry it together.